We are here because we are dedicated to helping the entire CrossFit community. Determined to elevate coaches, box owners, athletes, and everything in between, we believe that this mission will begin right here, right now. While this time and this goal begins with you, our hope is that you take this fire ignited within you and weave it into your own life with the same unrelenting passion to give those you have the privilege of coming in contact with the best hour of their day.
Burn. Awkward silence. I was wondering how long we're going to go with that awkward silence.
I was going to stare into your eyes until you looked away.
Can we talk about something before we get to the topic at hand? We have an affiliate U member, Dennis. Now, Dennis coached a teenage girl, 17 years old, in the age qualifier.
CrossFit Abyss. Let's give Dennis, a former staff member, let's give him a shout out.
Right. Shout out, Dennis. 275 for 4 on the front squat.
That's egregious.
This
is what's interesting about this is, so I think he's been coaching her for a while, right? Like for 5 or 6 years, I think. And this is a testament to training at a young age, right? Training intelligently at a young age and not breaking yourself. But like, that is insane. She's 17, I think. She's
7. That's what he said.
Right. That's insane.
We were just talking about crypto before we got on this, before we hit record. It's kind of like crypto, right? Like, it's just skyrocketing, and fitness.
It doesn't make sense.
What's that?
It doesn't make sense. It's like the speed in a Tesla. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think I was listening to an interview. You know who Lex Friedman is?
Yep.
He had a guy named John.
He's got a podcast. He's been on Joe Rogan probably 4 times, probably.
Yeah, MIT guy, super smart Russian, but jiu-jitsu guy. He had John Danaher on. And he was a very well-known jiu-jitsu teacher. And they were, asking about John Danaher has a leg lock system, which is basically, rather than arm barring and choking, you attack the legs. And he's like, how much more progress are we going to make in this leg lock system? And he related it to the jet engine. And he said, from 1945 to 1960, planes got like 100 miles an hour faster every year. So for 15 years, there was just this incredible growth and speed and everything. And he's like, but if you got on a plane in 1960 and you got on a plane today, they're basically the same.
Right. There's been very little change, at least on the high end. And most of at least to my knowledge, with regard to avionics, if you will, has to do with propulsion and more to do with aerodynamics or flying higher in order to fly faster, right? So, flying higher in the atmosphere where friction is less, things like that, like orbit type stuff. But yeah, propulsion wise, I don't know that there's been much made. There's been a ton made with regard to robotics and AI, where you can use propulsion differently, where now we can send a booster into space and it can come back and it land itself, so we can reuse it and reduce our cost that way. But I don't know there's been a ton made in like combustion engines.
Well, I guess my thought is, are we there for CrossFit as well? Are we there for fitness?
I don't think so.
Are we still in that growth phase where we're going to see 17-year-old girls front squatting 275 and I haven't even checked, but I would guess that's not even the number one score.
Probably not. Not if we were to, because like if we were to compare that to a world-class weightlifter, like Olympic weightlifter, it's probably not close. So size-wise, so there's a lot of room to be made there, and which is cool. What's interesting is to see as they move towards the upper ends of strength, but there's obviously a limit to that with, if you remove like your genetic, anomalies in those freak shows, do they retain the rest of the skills is the question.
Yeah.
So like, can they hit these top numbers and walk on their hands for 100 yards? Like that's the interesting topic at hand. And we're not even close to that, because we could agree that CrossFitters by and large are fairly good at weightlifting, right? Like they're not world-class weightlifters, but they've made far greater leaps in weightlifting than they have in gymnastics. Most CrossFitters do not have basic gymnastics skills. The vast majority of them are fairly, at least we could call it like somewhat competent in the lifts.
I like that. That's an interesting point because you're right. The best CrossFitters are probably at the maybe, what would you say, 90th percentile in weightlifting?
They're pretty, I mean,
Maybe
yeah,
even,
I mean 80 to 90, depending on weight class. Like once you get in the weight classes, then they're way off, but close enough. You know,
right,
I mean, it's like you see Tia Claire makes the Olympics, so that's you know
so
a good example.
if we say in weightlifting they're at 85 to 90, call it, where are they in gymnastics and monostructural?
Monostructural, I think, is fast enough, but I think what's required in order to get to the end of the spectrum for monostructural, you have to give up so much in order to make it happen. But there's plenty of guys out there running sub 5 miles, which I consider 90th percentile.
Yeah, I think when it comes to monostructural, there's many different things. There's running, there's rowing, there's swimming. So some of those are, we're higher than others. I would
Rowing's high. I think cycling is probably not very high.
Right,
What's that?
skill.
Right. But if you look at something like I think if you looked at the world-class marathon row times, I think some of the CrossFitters are like right in the mix when they do that.
Really?
If you look at the 2K times, and like they're fairly close, right? Like they're reasonably close. They're not getting blown out of the water like they are in the mile, right? Where people are getting beat by 90 seconds in the mile.
See, that's interesting because I would have argued that they're better we're closer to the top of the shorter distances than we are at the longer distances.
Well, it depends on short, right? So if you're talking about 100-meter sprints, the margin for error there, like what are we calling close? 1 second? Right. Yeah. If you're talking 10% of 10.5%, I just saw an NFL player ran like a 10.6 or 10.4 100 meters, and he was a giant. It was terrifying.
Well, and I was going to say, running and rowing, which obviously have skill involved, a little less skill than something like even biking or swimming. Biking, because we judged that crit a couple of years ago in Madison, and it was scary watching because people were just wiping out left and right.
Right, that's a totally separate skill set. So they're way off the margin on those. Swimming, way off the margin on those. Just don't do it as much. But some of them are, like, I think running, if you look at overall, I think they're fairly close. If you're looking at intermediate distances, because it wouldn't be weird to find a CrossFitter who could run, for sure, 17 and some change, 5K. You know what I mean? But like a mile time, you're talking about 3 minutes and some change.
Yeah.
Like that's like offensively fast. But what's a 4:58 versus a 3:43? In my mind, is pretty fucking close.
It is, it's close, but it really isn't, right? Like if you showed up at the Olympics and you had a 4:58 mile, the stadium
get laughed off the track.
Yeah.
They'd be like, "Who's this guy? This guy got a broken leg?
Is he doing the 2 mile? What's he doing?
Broken leg?"
All right. Well, a little off topic, but let's dive into today's topic at hand. How many active members do you have right now, approximately, right?
Ooh, 287.
What? Do you realize that's probably, talk about percentiles, that's the 99th percentile of CrossFit affiliates?
I have no idea, to be honest with you.
I do. I just told you.
Oh, you just made, yeah. 90% of statistics are made up, everybody.
I mean, I don't know that to be 100% true, but I can tell you, I've not spoken to many other boxes. I can probably name 2 that are there. One being, I think CrossFit South Brooklyn, David Osorio's box probably has quite a bit.
Right. So the counter argument is, like, I know of gyms that have had 500 to potentially 1,000, like Black Box in New York.
Or Paris, right? There's a couple.
Right. Yeah. The CrossFit Louvre has had, I think 1,000 members.
We were supposed to go there before COVID shut us down.
Right.
We'll go there.
Right.
We'll go on our honeymoon.
So yeah, I think that's within 5. I'd have to go in there and pull it up, but I know it's within 5 members.
when you think about 287 members, right? A lot of affiliate owners or coaches or members right now listening, like, damn, that's high. You must be fantastic at sales. You must be exceptional at getting people in your door and getting them to join CrossFit Rife. Is that
We
true?
have gotten exponentially better at it year over year. I don't know. This is a weird conversation, I think, because I don't like, what are we comparing it to? Do I think we do a good job of it? Yeah, I think we do a good job of it. We're constantly looking at it. We're constantly refining it. And when I say sales, I mean the act of there is a lead that comes in that then is contacted, that we get in the door and then convert, right? This, like organically, because we don't do any paid advertising currently.
So to get to 287, have you ever done paid advertising?
I have done paid advertising and never gotten to 287.
So I agree. I think, there was that push for quite some time, whether it was the boot camps and no sweat and this, I don't even know what they were called, to get new people in the door. And I guess that's kind of what we're chatting about today. But I was at a box that was running these programs month over month, and it was great. They were getting a nice cash influx. But what I also noticed was none of those people stuck around. So you're always just chasing the next cohort.
It does become problematic because now I'm a slave to the sale, right? So if you just do the math on it, some of it doesn't make sense. Meaning, okay, well, if you did $20,000 of sales this month, like whatever, I've seen those numbers thrown out there. Well, then I'm like, okay, well then, so in 4 months, you're at, let's call it 4 to 6 months, you're at $1 million run rate, and that's just where you're at. You're just at $1 million. And more often than not, that's not the case. Like if you pop the hood on these things, they're nowhere close to that. And I'm like, oh, you're just having to redo this every 6 weeks, which is very problematic because now my focus shifts away from, from service, and now it is solely sales. And that's a more nuanced conversation that needs to be had, because if you listen to the podcast we did with Michael McCallowitz, and we talk about the hierarchy of needs for a business, base layer is sales, but everybody only looks at that and says new sales.
Yeah, I think
that's the fundamental problem.
That's exactly it. It's like, okay, sales, like I gotta get, when you think sales, you think I have to get new people in my door to make that.
Right.
When in fact, there are so many sales that are happening within your doors on a daily basis, and many of which are not happening because you're not actually A, making sales, or B, good at those sales.
I think if you looked at this through a different lens, because when you look at it the other way, just say, okay, I've got all this new sales coming in, you're looking at it as a one-time transaction. Hey, I made the sale, it's done, nobody cares anymore. Versus looking at this the way we look at it, and when I say we, I mean, like you and I and everybody that we walk through this process, is nobody ever leaves the sales process. Like, I'm continually selling them on staying here every single month. Now that may sound exhausting, but you can put a lot of things in place that would facilitate that. And this is kind of, I think it's a bit misleading if it's like, hey, retention is not your problem. Well, I disagree wholeheartedly. Having seen the inside of a lot of gyms, there are massive retention problems going on there. And if you're bringing in $20,000 or even $10,000 a month new sales, and you are not stacking that month over month, well, by definition, you have a retention problem. Like, I don't know how, like that, anybody who's going to say you don't, that is nonsense, and you should walk away from that conversation. You can't look at it that way. It has to be a continual service-based resale, meaning like they want to stay there. It is not a mandatory transaction for them to stay there. And if I look at it long term and I bring the number down, like, well, let me do $5,000 of new sales this month and then stack that month over month. And I'm getting a $3,000 increase month over month versus a $20,000 increase. But the number that I bring in, I focus on and give them a way better experience. And then their likelihood of staying is not 120 days, it is 22 to 24 months. This is how you start to hit really high gross revenue numbers that is now a reoccurring revenue number that doesn't require a front end funnel that does $20,000 in sales to hit that number again, right? So it's always the question I would ask is like, if you turn that funnel off right now, what does your sales look like next month? And there's many instances where like, well, it looks $20,000 less than it is right now. That's a fucking problem. A real problem, because you are not liquid in any way, shape, or form. Like that is, you are now quite, and we probably saw it in many instances in COVID where you are now 30 to 60 days away from being out of business.
Well, and it's funny too that a community and a business style that promotes this idea of community and this idea of family doesn't focus on keeping that intact and growing that, but focuses on, cool, I've got this, now let me go outside and get more, rather than saying, hey, rather than going out and getting more, what if I just did a really good job with these people that are already here and I busted my ass to keep them forever? And not only that, maybe increase the price, supply and demand, or maybe just offer them more opportunity to buy within the gym. Like the people that are already there spending $150 to $200 a month are the people that are willing to spend another $10, $20, or $30 a month on many things. That could be supplements, it could be premium services, it could be a t-shirt. There's so many things you can be doing, and it's a captive audience.
They're there already. They want to be there. They've already committed to that. And this doesn't mean you jack up their price all the time, right? It doesn't mean like, well, I'm gonna go from $170 to $300 a membership, and if they don't want to pay that, then I get rid of them. I'm just gonna reduce my workload. I'm like, there's a happy medium there where you can do both. I can grow to a 350, maybe 400 person gym offering really good service and fair price, where we deliver every single time people walk out onto the floor, and we have all these extra things that they might want. It's way harder, but again, we're in the business of being professionals. That's what I think people should be striving for, right? That's what I would, if we were to kind of like make this mythical like level 4 gym, that's what it would look like.
You call it what, CrossFit Ackerman, since it's a level 4 gym?
We would CrossFit small person. That's what we would call it.
So, I heard something interesting.
By the way, I gave you that layup. I'm glad you took it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. We practiced that ahead of time.
Yeah.
I heard something interesting about someone. They were saying he's not small, he's short. And I thought that about myself. I'm not small. 140 pounds of solid steel and sex appeal over here.
Neither one of those things, my friend. Yeah, neither one of those things.
But it's interesting too, because we kicked off talking about your 287 members, which is awesome and something a lot of gyms should strive for. But I think if you only strive for that.
Now I do want to say something. Having that number, absent of anything else, is no different than telling me what your weight is.
I just told you, 140 pounds.
Not your weight. Right?
Yeah, but
my point.
Right.
140. Yeah, but you're like, oh, but you're 4'11", and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like this paints a whole different picture. I'm like, you're not impressive anymore when you tell me that you're 5'1".
You heard me say sex appeal, right?
Right. Yeah. Right, I get it.
At what height is
Nosehold and I both agree that you are delusional. So thank you, Nosehold, for bringing that to light. I don't want to just be like, oh, 287. You may not need 287. You may not want 287. It depends, right? But again, just the number doesn't mean anything. You could have $1 million business and run a 1% profit margin, and that's a garbage business.
Yeah, no, but that's exactly where I was going with it. I would argue that when I think at my peak, Albany CrossFit had right around 500 members, and we were making a ton of money. But I can't tell you that if I would have dropped to 200 members and done things better, we would not have been making more money. And something you and I preach daily is money is important. We get it. You need to have a successful business. Now, how much money you need is different for everyone. And I would argue there's a point where making 200 grand a year and being miserable, I would rather make 50 grand a year, potentially work less and be happy. So there's that to be said. And there's also having less members, but charging more and having more options for them with members you enjoy. We all, if you're listening to this, you have members that you don't like. If you're listening to this, you might be that member that your box owner doesn't like. So having 287 members simply means there's more opportunity for those people you don't like. I want this place to be packed full of people that I can't wait to be around.
Well, you're not going to like everybody, like, or at least not to the same degree. But the point is, like, it's at that point, it doesn't matter anymore. My job is to walk in and serve, right? Like, my job is to walk in and change lives and give them a kick-ass experience, whether I like them or not. We're not going to hang out for endless amounts of hours afterwards. Like, that's not the point. There's just two things that I would want people to emphasize, or I would want people to look at a little bit differently. One is retention is sales. So when we say you need sales, you need to continue to resell the people you have. This is a budgeting issue, right? And if you're into any sort of finances or kind of anything, if you ever read up on Dave Ramsey or anything like that, kind of a financial guru, like, your greatest asset is what you already have. Are you maximizing what you already have? Then we can talk about, like, bumping that up. And it's no different in Profit First in Michael McCallum's books. It's like, hey, first thing you have to do is just, like, reduce as much cost as I have as I can with the current revenue I have, so that I can maximize that thing, and then make the gap between my expense and my profit as wide as possible. So that's the first thing, is just like sales. First place you should look is currently what you have. Resell those people. Make sure that your churn rate is as low as humanly possible, because we've seen it time and time again, and that's why we preach the net 3. The net 3 theory doesn't work if you're not maximizing retention.
Explain to everybody net 3, because not everybody.
Net 3 means if I bring in 6 people and I have 3 people leave in the same month, that is net 3. I gained 3 people total. If I bring in 14 and 15 people leave, I'm net -1. So that's what we're talking about, net 3.
We believe Best Hour, Affiliate U, net 3 is the way to go. I mean, think about it. If you have net 3 a month for a year, you've gained 36 members. And I think the part that the listeners need to understand is, it's not that you're gaining 36 members, it's that you're getting 36 quality members who are then going to be there for, we believe if you can get somebody to stick around for 180 days or 6 months, they're going to stick around for basically forever. Now, that's what allows you to continue that net 3. So it's compounding.
Which is the whole purpose, right? It's just is looking at this through on a much longer timetable, so that what I'm focusing on is what will actually create more. So if I have a larger member base that stays around long enough, then the referrals are higher, which means then I don't have to do a ton of outside sales. And then you can leverage this a lot of different ways. But again, that's internal again, which is like, sell there first. Sell who you already have. You don't need to be running ads and spending a ridiculous amount of time on copy. You do need to do those things. You do need to have a clear message that explains who these ideal people are and all that. I'm not poo-pooing on social media. Just think people are putting all their eggs in this cold sales bucket when you have a leaky faucet. And I know people, we've heard that term before, which is like, you got to make sure that people don't fall at the bottom of the bucket. But I want to reframe that, because people are only looking at sales as external. If I reframe that and I say, well, hey, sales is internal as well, and then I'm going to have to continue to resell these people, well, this frames everything differently. It also makes it easier to take my eye away from this 30 new people a month. And if you get that, great, I'm happy for you. But now I'm just like, 3, I need 3. Right? I don't know a gym owner out there that wouldn't take a massive sigh of relief if I was just like, dude, 3, just get 3 people and keep everybody else. Now you can focus on all the shit that's important.
And we're not suggesting you turn down 7 people because you got your 3. Certainly get that. But if you just think about these small wins, if you're a box owner and you can't get 3 new members a month, there's a inherent problem there. You're not doing something right, whether it's you're not providing the experience your members need, so they're going out and telling your friends. They're not putting good content forward-facing on Instagram to entice people to come in. You're not running things like a Bring a Friend Week that we talk about, which, by the way, I got an email from somebody else trying to do a Bring a Friend Week. Not nearly as good as what we promote. Just throwing it out. I don't even remember who it was, but I was like, this is nonsense.
Well, it's not about Bring a Friend Week. It's not this mythical unicorn that if you just put it out there, that it's like everything that we choose. Like, how do you do it? I was like, okay, cool. Tell me the points performance for the air squat. Maybe you can rattle them out. Maybe you can't. Which I kind of don't care. I want to see you execute that from a coaching standpoint on the floor. That's what I actually care about. That's what makes all of those things important. It's not about bring a friend week. Here's the idea, everybody. I give it to you for free. Like, it's not mind blowing. Run it once a quarter. Many people come in as that week as you want. Like, it doesn't matter. There you go. The end. That doesn't mean it's going to be successful.
No, it doesn't mean it's going to be successful, but if you're doing things right, it will be. But again, it's not about that one thing. It's about doing all of these little things well. What are some of the things you sell at Rife that maybe some affiliate owners aren't doing that they should be doing?
When you say sell, can you be more specific?
Well, somebody comes into CrossFit Rife, they buy, I assume, first things first, the CrossFit membership. Now, I know you offer other things at the box, such as your sauna, your recovery area, etc. They can, but what are some other things when you think about average revenue per member that you're doing well there that other box owners should be taking advantage of?
Well, retail's the low hanging fruit, and we could talk endlessly about retail, but the point is that it's there and it's able to be leveraged correctly based on what people want, and then delivering it on a systematic basis so that I'm not like sales-y, right? I'm not pushing it down people's throat. Like, I know generally what people want, so then that's what I offer, and then they buy it, and then I do it systematically so that we get repeat buys all the time. And then we may have some big plus ups here and there, and then you can get creative with like how you package them and bundle them and using discount codes and stuff like that. Where like I'm all for that kind of stuff.
And I want to give
the average,
a shout out. For example, we had a call yesterday, our group call, and Jen said she had the most people buy Murph shirts ever this year. And obviously, part of it is she crossed over that 100 member threshold for the first time. So that was a big part. So obviously, the more members you have, the more members you have buying apparel. But it's also about getting your members to think about, okay, when I buy a new t-shirt, I buy it at the box. When I buy my protein, I buy it at the box. When I need knee sleeves or wrist wraps or any of that stuff, I support my box. So it's going to just continue to, just like that net 3, it's going to continue to compound. Next time she sells shirts, more people are going to buy it because A, she's making them bigger and better. B, she's getting better price. There's so many things that go along with that, but it starts with understanding, inside your box is where sales need to happen.
When we started to hit the numbers that we wanted was when we stopped paying attention to the goal. We started focusing on what would be the things or the process that would get us there. Because you get distracted by the goal and then you skip all the things that would get you there. Right. It's just like focusing on, we got to win the game. We got to win. And all we do is just think about winning. And it's just like, we got to win. We got to beat the other team. And it's just like, yeah, but what are you doing to beat the other team? Are you practicing? Are you running through your playbook? Are you working on your defensive schemes? Are you working on the play sets that you're going to run? Like, what are you doing?
For the record, what sport are we talking about here?
Any sport you want. What sport would you want?
We do
curling. It'd be curling. Yeah.
No, but
are you focused?
That's you hear that a lot in any sport too. Like when a champion wins and they're like, oh, then they lose. And like, I stopped doing the things that were working. I got lazy, I got complacent. And those are the things when you started, you took such amazing care of every person that walked into your gym. I mean, I used to buy a new binder, print out their names, before there were Wodify and all that, print out blank pages, like all of those things. And then I stopped doing it because I got too many members, right? But if you take that same care for every...
Well, I would argue, I will give you some criticism here. I don't think it's because you got too many members. There's probably something as an owner where you did not build the team in order to continue to keep doing that.
That's exactly right. It should have become, this is low-hanging fruit for me to delegate to somebody else. And rather than doing that, I had those people start coaching or running on-ramp, etc. But I didn't have them do those little things. And I got too busy to run out to, Office Max twice a week to buy binders.
The reason this is important and the reason that sales is not your problem, like if we pulled, and this isn't it, we may have talked about this before, I don't remember. If you pull Wodify, I don't know if the other ones do it, but I know Wodify sends you a year snapshot every year. It should be like, it's like these like overarching metrics. Most gyms, and I've seen probably just a dozen this year, most of them have anywhere between 60 to 100 people, meaning like new clients that came into the system. That's double to triple what we recommend. What's the problem? So the problem is not people coming in. The problem is you're not keeping them. And that is the focus point. Now, why is this important, or why do we want to make the goalpost closer, or why do we want to focus on these smaller things and retaining people and gaining small? Number one, to maximize experience. Number two, so that I can grow steadily. So I know that I have sustainable income, so that you can not make the mistake that you're referring to earlier, which is like, I have all this revenue and I didn't do the correct thing with the revenue, which was build a team. Because I know if I need $20,000 of sales coming in every month, what's really hard to hire at that point, to be honest with you, because if I lose that, then so-and-so is out of a job next month. But if I know month over month, I'm running a 3 to 5% increase, and we went from 15 to 17 to 18 to 23, and then we hold 23 for 4 months, and then we go 27, then we go 30K a month. That now becomes the new run rate, because I can see the consistency across. Now I can start to level up the team. But if you're slave to the sale, all I've got is salespeople, and the focus is on the wrong people, which is just like sell, 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 versus deliver awesome service. Those people will be your salespeople. This is something that Coach Glassman was, in my personal opinion, like misinterpreted. He wasn't saying don't do sales. He was saying crush it with your members and maximize retention, and they will do it for you.
Yeah, I mean, his famous expression was, "I don't, market or pay for marketing. I have an army of marketers that do it for free."
Right.
And I think many gyms have that in the beginning. I mean, I certainly had it at Albany CrossFit. I could not get people to shut up about Albany. Every day, somebody was bringing in a buddy. Somebody was bringing in a friend. I mean, it was amazing. And what you need to do is then take care of those people so they continue to bring in more friends and more friends. And that's what it's all about. That's when you also, like I discussed earlier, have that group of people that you enjoy being around. Because if your friends are bringing in their friends, they're probably pretty cool too. And those are the people you want to hang around with.
Well, I mean, let's just pose the question out there. If you're a gym owner, which one of these two situations or scenarios would you prefer to be presented with? I want you to learn to build sales funnels, right? I want you to learn how to use all these automated systems, build Facebook ads, build copy, do creative, all these other things, write all these copies and put them together, and then continue to monitor your Facebook ads, your metrics, and dial up your spend, your CPA for all that stuff. Or would you prefer to be like, hey, let's dial in, like tracking attendance. Let's refine, what the process is for when people join the gym. Let's maybe look at how our pricing structure works. Like, do we have a solid referral program in? Like, what is our, events for the year? Which one of those would you rather do? Which one? Like, but everybody chases the shiny thing, like, oh, Facebook ads. And I'm like, you don't know shit about Facebook ads. And you don't need to, by the way. And you're not good at it. And it's not fun. And it's not going to give me what I want.
Yeah, and if you want to hire someone that knows a little bit about Facebook ads and pump a couple bucks in there every day, go for it. Just that's not what you should be relying on.
I will give you my experience that the number, when that becomes something that should seriously be considered and now is a legitimate function within the gym, is something around 300, where the churn rate, even if really good, looks like something between 5 to 10 people will be leaving every single month.
Yeah, you get to 300 members, 5 to 10 people. That's like 3%, not even, right? It's like 2%.
It's 1%. Well, I mean,
that's okay, and then it's okay because we're getting some new people coming in from this market,
right?
But I think,
but at that point, it's a legit concern, because 1%, let's call it 2%, right? So like you have a 2% churn rate, everybody would, 3, let's go. But even that in the gym industry would be considered like really good. At that point, now it's legitimate, right? Now I need to figure out, but then it's not, but then you have to think there's a right and a wrong way to do that, which is, if done correctly, there will be multiple layers to running ads. That's a whole separate discussion, but there's like layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, that by the time this person comes in, they are now a warm lead. It's not a free something or other, you get this. That is a cold call, and we all know how that works. It's not the clients you want. You'll get a handful, the vast majority of them are not, and the work required to sift through all of those is astronomical. Okay. So there's a right and a wrong way to do that. But most people, you can push towards this upper echelon of 200 to 300 members without ever touching a Facebook ad. Just create really good social media and people will share the shit out of it in their circles, which is exactly where I want to focus my time anyway. So as the world opens back up specifically, like you do not need to be focusing your time on front end sales. You're going to get it. Make sure your website doesn't suck. Make sure your social media has like regular posts, that highlighting, success stories, stuff like that. And then focus on really kicking ass when people walk in the gym. Make sure that their experience is amazing. Make sure that they move well. Make sure they have fun. Make sure they get results. That's it. That is your sale. Your greatest retention, and we talked about this, your greatest retention tool is the 60 minutes between when the whiteboard brief starts and when you break everybody after the cool down. That is your greatest sales tool. Use that.
So you never miss an episode of the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel and on all major podcasting platforms at Best Hour of Their Day. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being a part of the best hour of our day. See you next time.